issues. But I think we are good to get started now. At this point, you should be seeing my screen. I'll flip it over to our starting page. If you have any questions at all or need any support, feel free to use GoToWebinar's chat or questions box, and I will do my best to answer those throughout the session. Before we begin, my name is Stephanie and I'm the channel manager here at TrueSky, and I am looking forward to showcasing all about TrueSky, our budgeting, planning, forecasting, and reporting solution for Sage X3, and showing you how we can help you budget better, more often, and in more detail. I see some people still joining, so just a quick housekeeping note, everyone is on mute. Any questions or comments, feel free to use GoToWebinar's question or chat box. I'm going to go through a few slides at first, just giving you an overview of kind of the budgeting landscape and where we fit in, what our solution entails, and then we will jump into a demo so you can see an overview of TrueSky in action. All right, so first and foremost, thinking at a really high level and strategically when it comes to budgeting, planning, forecasting, and even reporting. I would wager that most of you on today's session are using Excel to manage the budgeting process. I think official stats are somewhere between 60 to 80% of all companies of all sizes use Excel to manage the budgeting process. And it's a great tool, but it is not designed for enterprise budgeting. And when we are budgeting and forecasting and looking ahead, there are a few things that really matter. Ultimately, we want to improve the accuracy. We don't want to be budgeting just to budget. We want to make sure that the numbers that we're inputting and ultimately the insights that we're getting are accurate. We want to make sure that the right people are involved in the budgeting process who have an understanding of what the landscape will be. Now, that is very difficult to do, adding more and more people to the budgeting process in Excel. So ultimately, at a really high level, we want to eliminate the kind of manual effort, the setup, the administration around the budgeting process, because that introduces a lot of risk. When you have people setting up Excel workbooks, dealing with data back and forth and no integration to the data in Sage X3, there is a lot of risks introduced. Studies show that 90% of all spreadsheets have some level of error. Forgetting a minus sign, missing the decimal, adding an additional number to the end of your data. Tons of risk involved when you're budgeting in Excel. So at a high level, you want to enable really secure collaborative input so that you can trust the data. And again, back to that first point, improve accuracy. And of course, being strategic, we want to ensure that whatever we're putting in place, whatever systems and whatever processes that we're using are scalable. We want to make sure that we can build for the future and have all of that flexibility that we need as things change. So again, most of you are likely using Excel to manage the budgeting process. And there's a few things that are just not working. Again, companies are spending a lot of time consolidating spreadsheets, sending things back and forth, copying and pasting, and just dealing with kind of a web of Excel. And that's just not working. It gives us, again, that lack of accuracy, but really limited visibility and auditability. There's nothing to kind of secure that data, to see who changed what, and have that level of control. What that means is for many companies, the budget input process is really siloed. People are limited to who can be involved in the process and who can provide input. And that doesn't give us the most comprehensive and accurate picture of the business and the direction that the numbers are going. The other big thing that is not working for many companies today is that there is no integration to data. They do not have that kind of real-time link between the actual data in Sage X3 to their budgeting process. So the numbers are incomplete. By the time your finance team takes exports and sends them over, they're out of date. And this is causing a lot of, again, administrative headaches. So where do you go from here? Now, obviously, you're all on today's webinar because you're at least curious of what the path forward looks like and how we increase the accuracy and control of the budgeting process. For most companies, Excel is still the way to go from an end user point of view. It's easy to use, your people already know how, and you can continue to leverage what's already working. The Excel interface is, one of the best, familiar, comfortable, all those sorts of things. But as a strategic, either finance or IT leader, you need to take Excel to the next level. Add security, logic, controls, and support to create this truly comprehensive, accurate, and reliable budgeting and forecasting process that can help drive your business forward. So we say you don't need to replace Excel, but eliminate what makes it risky and inefficient. And that's what we do with TrueSky. So we give you the kind of simplicity of Excel and the good parts of it, which truly are the interface, but take it to the next level and turn Excel into a true enterprise solution. Now, most of this you'll see in the demo, but with TrueSky, you will get that Excel interface that you know and like, not Excel-like, not kind of a similar data grid, but truly Excel with a centralized database, everything you need for workflow and approvals, all of the security and audit trail functionality, really seamless merging of data, which allows you to get more and more people involved in the process without adding administrative work. And extremely importantly is that integration to your ERP. We are the only certified solution to integrate with Sage X3. We can also integrate with a lot of other solutions, and we'll talk about that shortly. But again, all of these things you get with TrueSky, keeping the simplicity and the stuff you know and love about Excel. Switching gears a little bit, just before we get into the demo, I do want to provide an overview of the complete solution that we offer here at TrueSky. We are more than just a piece of software, just some software that you'll implement and use on a little bit, use. We are a complete solution, and that solution includes 4 equally important parts. The first is the tool, and that's what we'll demo shortly. So it is one tool for all of the input, budgeting, planning, forecasting, whatever you want to call it, and output, reporting and dashboarding and data visualization. So one interface for you to get familiar with and for your end users to use. That interface, again, is Excel. But everything is sitting on a SQL database, which ensures that you have that reliability. You're not sending spreadsheets back and forth, and you're not spending time setting up spreadsheets. Everything is stored in the database. Lastly, what you'll see in the demo is just a demo. Everything that we do is configured for your business. So we work with you to figure out what exactly you need configured and deliver that just for you. We have tons of experience with all different industries and company sizes that we can apply, but everything is built and configured specifically for you. Now, the next part of our solution is the integration, and this is something that is extremely important to us and something that really differentiates us from a lot of other solutions on the market. We integrate with Sage X3. Again, we are the only certified solution to do so, so that you have kind of that real-time access to the information that you need from your ERP. Sage X3 is your data source, and anything new that you add to X3, whether that's a transaction, an account, or department, is automatically updated in TrueSky. So you have that kind of reliable link between the two systems that you can count on. That integration is scheduled. For most customers, we schedule it nightly, but we can do it based on your requirements. And you can also run it on demand with the click of a button from our administration console. So this is, again, a really, really important piece of our solution. We make sure that we're getting all of the data that you need for your processes from X3 or other data sources. Now, depending on what you're budgeting, that could be a CRM, an HR system, some other inventory system, anything that you need, we can get at the data. The next part of our solution, or the next two, are around kind of the consulting support. Now, what we are going to deliver for you is a complete solution configured for your needs, and we're going to continue to support you in the entire budgeting, planning, forecasting, and reporting process. So we spend a ton of time upfront, even during the sales process, understanding what it is you need. We do requirements review sessions and figure out what we need to configure and how we can do that to optimize the process. You'll be assigned a project manager and a senior consultant at the minimum, who is always kind of communicating with you, reviewing what we've implemented, and refining it to make sure that you get the best possible solution. A side note, everything we do is fixed fee, so you'll always know exactly what it costs and what you'll be getting, to ensure that you have that predictability in your operations as well. And the last component of our complete solution is the support. So we don't just implement and drop off. We continue to be a part of your budgeting and forecasting process every time you need us. So we proactively schedule support, whether that's changes to your templates, training new users, retraining people who may have forgot things from the last time, but making sure that we help you have the best possible budgeting and forecasting process. 99% of the time, the same team that did your implementation will be your support team, so that they get to know you, know your business, and really become an extension of your budgeting team. We also have kind of the standard phone and email support desks for those, quick questions that you have. But our support program is extremely robust, designed to help you with not only the tool, but the process and the overall solution that we're delivering. Now, just before we jump into the demo, I do want to kind of give an overview. Again, we can do everything on the input side of things, so all different types of budget input processes, whether that's financial, compensation planning, revenue forecasting, or CapEx planning, as well as any sort of reporting. And again, sorry, this should say reporting on data in X3, but really any data source. Now that's reporting on budget data or actuals. So we can do all your financial reports, all your budget to actual reports, and anything that you need. What you'll see in the demo in just a minute is just an overview. It's just kind of a slice of what we can do. We do have tons of different webinars, both live and recorded, that I'd encourage you to check out if you're looking for something a little bit more detailed. But what you'll see shortly is just an overview, and we're happy to answer any questions that you have. That being said, I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Alan. He will show you the demo, and hope you like what you see. Thanks. Alan, you should be able to present now.
All right.
Alan.
So what I'm walking through is it's a generic presentation, right? So it's not geared towards any one industry, not geared towards any one particular business process. Now, keep in mind with TrueSky that you can do budgeting and forecasting and reporting on pretty much any business process you can think about that. So that might be, expenses, SG&A, it might be revenue by customer, by product, it might be compensation, it might be capital expenditure, it might be project-based stuff. So again, always keep that in mind, regardless of what I show you here. Again, this is just an overview. As Stephanie was talking about, what you should be seeing up on screen right now is Excel. Excel is our end user interface. And that's how your end users are going to interact with Excel. And again, that's going to reduce your training costs. It's going to reduce the number of questions you get from users because everyone's done budgeting and forecasting in Excel. What it also means is that you get to leverage all the features and functionalities that are in Excel. Now, Excel is a super mature product that's been around now for what, 30 years, 40 years, I don't know how many years, I've lost track now. And there have literally been billions of dollars spent in R&D on this product. And it's got a depth and breadth of feature and functionality that is ideal for doing budgeting and forecasting. And you're going to get to leverage all of that when you work with TrueSky. So up across the top, these are the traditional menu bar items, ribbon bar items you see here. But then we get here to TrueSky. Now, the first thing I like to point out, because we do have people from different regions on this webinar, is that we support multiple languages. So again, if you have operations that are international in nature, you can have one deployment of TrueSky and different people working in different languages. I have language packs installed for English, Spanish, and French here, but I'm just going to stick with English for right now. Where I'm going to start this presentation is by clicking the button that's called the Hub. The Hub is a central area where end users go to access what they have been given the rights to see and to work with by an administrator. Now with TrueSky, you're not going to have to worry about emailing out links to Excel documents or setting up shared drives, juggling worksheets on emails. We handle it all here through the Hub and the backend administration layer. And the two tabs I'm going to focus on are assignments and reports. Assignments are input sheets. They're how your people are going to get their budget into the system. And as an example, under the annual budget cycle, I have to work on two tasks, office expenses and travel expenses. For reports, which are just that, you can slice and dice them, but you can't edit them. I have access to these 4 financial statements in our financial statement folder. These 4 reports and these 2 input tasks are what I see when I log in to the system. When another user logs into the system, they might only see 1 input task and have access to 1 report. Everything we do in TrueSky dynamically renders itself to the individual user based on their security settings and what the administrators has published. So again, that's how you don't have to worry about all those shared drives and telling people to, you go use this form, you use this form. We're handling all that for them, making it a lot easier for people to just start using TrueSky out of the blue with very minimal training. Now, where I'm going to start this process and show you things is office expenses. Now, again, talking about we do things like revenue, CapEx, compensation, project forecasting, and so forth. But almost everyone that we work with is doing some form of expenses, which is why I'm going to start with this as the presentation. We start to give you things like command and control that you don't necessarily have with straight Excel. So one, people can't start working on a budget until the start date passes that you have set up. Now that's usually rarely a problem because people tend to procrastinate on working on the budget to the last minute. But more importantly, you can lock people out from making changes once a budget cycle is done. So if you've ever had the situation where you're starting to get ready to prepare your reporting package for your bank, for your board of directors, for your management, whatever the case may be, and you're looking at the budget forecast numbers one day, you go back in the next day and they've changed and you don't know why or who changed them. All of that goes away with TrueSky because you've got that ability to lock people out from making changes once that cycle is done. We also have a complete workflow approval engine built into TrueSky that allows you to route your numbers through various different levels of approval. Now, I'm not going to really go into that today, but know that it is there, that it allows you to get more people involved in the budgeting process, each working on their little portion that they know the best, but having all of those numbers roll up together in real time with approval flows, approvals, rejections, notes, and so forth. Now, what I did while I was talking was I opened up my assignment for office expenses, and it brought back and rendered a template specifically for me and what I'm allowed to see and to work with. First tab is optional, but most of our clients use it, and this is where you can put instructions. Now, I think everyone's kind of thankful that you're not doing budgeting and forecasting every day of the year, right? So people are usually doing it maybe, once, twice a year, maybe quarterly, so they tend to forget, right? So we give instructions, get it out of emails because we're all overwhelmed with emails today. Right here, first thing they see are any kind of instructions that you want to roll about how the process should work, what the rules are, and so forth. But where I'm going to focus is this tab over here that's called Office Expenses. And where I want you to look here is my filters down on the side. These are my slicers, my dimensions, my filters, whatever term, filter, slicer, dimension, whatever term you want to use. In my example here, for this business process that I'm budgeting for, I have a slicer for location, for department, for currency, because we support budgeting and reporting in multiple different currencies, and for versions. We also support unlimited versioning of your budgets. Start with version 1, copy to version 2, edit version 2, and so forth. These are my slicers for this presentation. Your slicers are going to be completely up to you and the business process that you're budgeting and forecasting to. So if we're tied in with X3 and you're doing kind of SG&A kind of at what I'll call a GL level, even though X3 doesn't have that true GL concept, right? These will probably equate to your natural account in X3 and your analytical dimensions that you have set up in X3. If you're doing something like revenue forecasting, these slicers might be customer or customer group, might be something like product or product category, sales territory, depending on what you're budgeting for. Okay, if you're doing compensation, it might be position. Okay, so again, all of that gets configured to your setup, how you want to budget and forecast, and your back-end data source. Now, if I didn't want to work with the Seattle office as my location here, I can put my edit list here, and up would pop a list of the locations that I have access to. Now, first thing I have to point out is, as we do throughout TrueSky, security is always enforced. So if I don't have access to, say, the LA office, I won't see it on this list, but the person sitting next to me might. I create one input template to roll out to the organization. And again, security kicks in and limits what people can see and to work with instead of having to create dozens or hundreds of different worksheets, okay? Now, these kind of views are also great for reporting and analysis. So I can create one item and say, you know what, I can pull it back for the Seattle office, but instead I could on the fly decide I want to also combine data from my LA office and my Vancouver office. And right now it would either roll up all of these locations together for me into one number, or maybe lay out these locations side by side for direct comparison. The most important thing that we do, that is one of the biggest headache removers that we have, is that when we tie in with a back-end system like X3, if you add a new department, a new location, a new account, a new customer, a new product, a new whatever, we will pick it up automatically. Now, a lot of other budgeting and forecasting solutions out there will talk about how they have direct integration to back-end systems. And what they really mean is that when they first deploy it, they will do a pull of your departments, your locations, your customers, what have you, and bring it into their system. But every time you add a new department, customer, location, whatever, you have to manually update their system as well. And that's not true with TrueSky. We handle all that for you automatically. So it takes the workload down dramatically when it comes to doing budgeting and forecasting and maintaining the different systems, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and pull back data from my Seattle office for the corporate department. And now what it's doing is going out and making a call and getting the most up-to-date information that we have available to us in the database, okay? It's also doing a couple other things like enforcing security. So as an example, you can see these are the accounts that come back, but much like the filters over here, if I don't get access to the supplies hardware account, I won't see it on the list, and someone sitting next to me might. Now I'm going to close my filter bar and zoom in here a little bit. It makes it easier for people to see this when we're doing these web presentations. First thing I have to point out, what you see on rows, what you see on columns, the color, the shading, the font control, all that stuff is up to you and how you want your templates to look and to feel. In my layout here, I'm showing 12 months of budget against 12 months of actual and 12 months of variance, okay? But you could have multiple prior years of budget, multiple prior years of actual, multiple variances, multiple other calculations, and so forth, all up on screen. In my setup here, I am budgeting on a monthly granularity, but we also support granularities of daily, weekly, quarterly, as well as yearly. And again, different business processes can be budgeted on different granularities. So maybe you wanted to do revenue forecasting by week because that ties into production planning. You could do that, but you could do your financial forecasting on a monthly basis, okay? I am budgeting on a calendar year. And this is one of the other things that sets us apart from a lot of the other applications. But you can budget on things like fiscal years. Enter on a fiscal report on a calendar. Enter on a calendar report on a fiscal. You can even have user definable years. It's something that's very common for our clients that are not for profits, where maybe they've got a really big funding source. that wants reporting that's on their fiscal year. So you can have those kind of calendars as well. All of that is configurable based on your setup. If you are retail, as an example, or you're on a 445 type calendar, we can support that with TrueSky as well. We do that all the time with different clients. Now, as an end user, when it comes to using TrueSky, I can just start typing in numbers like I can today in Excel. I can do copy paste, I can do the autofill, and if you look at the formula I am typing in, that is a true Excel formula. I don't have to learn any new type of syntax or any formulas that are kind of Excel-like, but not quite Excel. I get to leverage all of the existing knowledge that I already have. And the moment I hit save, my numbers are saved to the backend database where they're instantly available to any other user to access in real time. There's no document check-in, no document check-out. There's no uploading to shared drive. There's no emailing back. There's no trying to link together 20 or 30 different Excel spreadsheets into your master one. Now, again, they only get to see that data with security, but obviously everything we do is in real time. But we've added a lot more that takes us to the next level beyond just an Excel interface. Now, remember, behind the scenes, we have a complete structured database that stores all the data, allows you to input in one format, report in another, that handles security, that handles direct integration to your backend data sources. But again, with that, we've leveraged a lot of other things. So the first one of those, audit trails. If you've ever had a situation where you're doing your budget to actual reviews and someone says, hey, I don't know where that number came from, I don't know how it got in there, right? All of that goes away. Anytime a user makes a change to a number in TrueSky, we track what was the change, the date and time, and who was the user that made that change. So you've got complete accountability as to who is editing what numbers and when. And you can copy those older numbers back into the system if you like. We give you the capability to add commentary to your numbers. Now, a lot of you, odds are you're using Excel today, and you might use that right mouse click and adding a note to your numbers. And that's a great first start. But the problem with that is that those comments are embedded in the Excel worksheet. And if you try to roll up into your master budget, none of those notes roll up. Well, we've taken that and given you the ability to add notes that are stored at the database level and tag with the data and travel with the data. So they're available not only to other users, again, with security, but on other reports, other layouts, completely different than what I put in. So here an example is I'm putting in information as to why we need to spend money on hardware. Like we need a new printer. We don't have the new printer. We can't send out invoices, right? I can add as many notes as I want. I can even add copies of electronic attachments. So if you've got a business case in Word justifying this purchase, you can attach it there. If you've got, say, a vendor quote in PDF, which just opened up on my other screen right here, you can attach it there. So with these notes and attachments, we're trying to help centralize all of that backup information that goes into doing a budget and forecast. You're trying to get that information out of your people's heads where you can look at it. But when you're doing this analysis 6 months from now, all of that great backup information that you need is in one place. You don't have to go hunt through people's desktops or their emails or shared drives trying to feed it. It's all here at your fingertips. Other things that we do, taking it to the next level. We have given you a series of data tools. Now, these data tools are designed for two things. One, get your people in and out quicker, but also help improve the quality of the numbers that you're putting into the system. Now, one of the things a lot of people do in the budgeting cycle is what I call the divide by 12 method of budgeting. That's where you're going to put in one number and you want to spread it out evenly through the year. And if that's what you want to do, great, we can help you with that. So you see I've set the whole year. For my drop down here, I'm choosing even and I hit replace, and it allocated that $100,000 over the 12 months. And now I could highlight any of a number of series of other cells and it would do that math for me automatically. However, what's wrong with this divide by 12? Well, it's great if you only look at your budget numbers, at a yearly basis, because it doesn't matter if you have variances throughout the year. But as we all know, you have very few revenues and expenses that are identical from year to year, right? Maybe you have some leases, maybe some rent payments, but usually you've got a variance. And if you're using TrueSky to help drive to cash flow projections, which a lot of our clients do, a divide by 12 kind of either overestimates or underestimates what you might be spending in any particular month. So with that, we give you some tools to help you get more accurate numbers in. So one of those are allowing you to put some trending in, some seasonality. So let's say you know with your numbers that you have highs in the summer months. So I chose my summer seasonality. And now when I hit now when I hit replace, you'll see it allocated more to the summer months and less to the winter months. And conversely, if I chose my winter trend, it's going to do just the opposite, allocate more to my winter and less to my summer. But maybe the best predictor of how your numbers this year are going to trend are last year's numbers. So I'm going to take last year's numbers, and now when I hit replace, it will trend my number by 100,000 this year based on my trends for last year. So again, you get better trending that leads to better analysis down the road. The other thing we can do, and I'm just going to copy some numbers in here, is we can use this tool to do bulk changes. So let's say I submit these numbers for approval, and my boss says, hey, Alan, you're a little too high. You got to cut by 23.5%. Well, instead of going cell by cell by cell, I'm going to come here to 23.5, and now I'm going to choose percent. And now every time I hit decrease, the numbers that I have highlighted decrease by 23.5%. Or if my boss gives me the okay to go on a spending spree, I can come up here and do 1,000 value, and now start every time I hit increase, it increases my numbers by 1,000. So again, the data tools, get your people in and out of doing the budget and forecast quicker. So again, if you're trying to move to quarterly reforecasting or rolling forecast on a monthly basis, you want to get them in and out quick, and we help with that. But it also helps improve the quality of your numbers that you get at the end of the day. Now, up to this point, I've only been showing you dollar-based budgeting, but we fully support the concept of driver-based budgeting. So as an example over here, you can see I've got headcount up here. And if I go down here to my kitchen and cleaning supplies, if I try to edit it, I'm locked out and prevented from changing it. But if I change my headcount number, you'll see my kitchen and cleaning supply value changes, right? So we fully support this concept of driver-based budgeting, where you're putting in rates and quantities to drive to a dollar amount. Really useful if you're doing anything related to projects, programs, how many people are we going to serve, how many customers are we going to have coming in, because knowing that helps drive to other areas of the business. Like, do we have to increase staffing? Do we have to increase production runs, where the dollars themselves might not actually show you that, right? So again, fully support that concept of driver-based budgeting. And while you're doing budgeting, you always have the capability of seeing data visualization. So right here, I'm just comparing what I'm spending my budget against my actuals, which are the blue-gray numbers. So again, if people are more visual, they can always see that. Other things that we bring to the table with TrueSky is the ability to do buildups of your numbers. So I'm going to zoom in here a little bit more. And I'm going to use employee training as this example, but we use this in a lot of different areas. So what went into my budget for employee training? Well, instead of having a sub-schedule where I've got to go out to a different worksheet, type in my team members, what the class is, the dollars, and then copy that stuff back into here, right? And then potentially lose that sub-schedule and they get out of sync or whatever. We allow you to do build-ups in real time. So I'm going to come over here and expand employee training. You see that I've already budgeted for these two classes, this HR and this first aid. And now I'm going to come up here to the ribbon where I'm going to say add detail. And on the fly, I can add my next class. And I can call it whatever I want, and I can put in whatever dollar I want. And now when I save my numbers, not only do we save the top line numbers, but we also save all the detailed line numbers. So when I go to submit for approval for my budget, right? Instead of my boss, when they look at this number and say, okay, why is Alan budgeting so high for employee training? Instead of my boss having to try to, get me on the phone or email me back and forth, right with one click, they can open this up and then see, okay, so Alan's budgeting for this, maybe says, you know what, I'm going a little heavy, you need to cut back without having to track me down. More importantly, 6 months from now, on a budget to actual comparison or an income statement, right, completely different layout, why are we so over or under budget on employee training? Well, on the fly, you'll be able to expand out and see exactly what you budgeted for. So again, we're getting all of this information into one place, all of this information at your fingertips, making it easier to do your analysis at the end of the day, right? Because budgeting isn't just for the sake of budgeting, It's for you to run your business later on and do that kind of analysis. So we're going to make that process all the more effective when you're doing it. All right. Now, as I've been inputting, you may have noticed that some of these icons on the side have gone from green to yellow to red. Well, that's a visual clue that this user has not met some form of data governance that we've laid down for this budget cycle. Now, TrueSky supports both the concept of what's called top-down budgeting and bottom-up budgeting. What most of our clients have done in real life is what I call a modified top-down, where what that means is that upper management sets some target goals. Like, you have to increase revenue by 5%. You need to cut these expenditures by 8%. You are allowed to increase headcount by 2%, but if you do that, you also have to increase training costs by at least 5%. Okay, so you have those kind of rules. Usually those go on an email. The people that are working on the budget, they open that email, they look at the email, they close it, they delete it, and then they ignore it. And they submit whatever they want. And you spend a lot of time going back and forth just trying to hit those goals. Well, you can build those target rules into TrueSky, and they can be as broad or as specific as you want them to be, as long as you can logically define them. In my example here, I'm comparing what I'm budgeting this year against last year. If I'm a 0 to 10% increase, I'm showing green. 10 to 20, I'm showing yellow. Over 20, I'm showing red. I hit my validate button up here, and right away, I get immediate feedback as to what is wrong with my numbers, more detail about it. This approval flow can also, or this validation, these business validations, can also be tied in with the approval flow of TrueSky. So if you're using approvals, if I've got greens on the board, great, my numbers go in clean for approval, no big deal. If I have yellows on the board, you can actually set the system up to give people a warning saying something like, you know what, you're close, you're not there, but you're close enough that we'll let you submit, but be prepared to defend it and explain why we should, accept this change, okay? If you want to get hardcore, you can say, if you've got reds on the boards, we're not even going to allow you to submit for approval because you are so far outside of our prescribed guidelines that all of your numbers are just going to get rejected anyhow, and all you're doing is wasting everybody's time. So again, these are tools that give you that command and control, help improve the quality of the data up front, and reduce the amount of time it takes to do a budgeting and forecasting cycle. These alerts can also be used in a reporting environment. So if you've got a report that says, you know what, I want you to immediately identify for me any line where this month compared to last month is greater than 5%, right? Whatever your rules are, that it can quickly show you exactly where those are without you having to try to hunt and find it yourself. So again, we're going to give you that greater control. We're going to improve the quality of the numbers that you're going to get. We're going to speed up. We're going to reduce the amount of time that it takes to do a budgeting and forecasting cycle. Now that shows you kind of input, but now I'm going to switch gears a little bit. And there's more that we do, right? And there's different types of input, again, compensation, CapEx, revenue, and so forth. That gives you some down. But I want to switch a little bit towards one of the other things that we provide, which is an analysis layer, okay? So perfect example here. I'm doing my budget for the upcoming year, or I'm looking at, for my department, my financials, right? How did I spend 1.25 million last year? Well, what would I normally have to do? Well, a lot of your department managers, a lot of the people that are involved in the budget or the forecast, or who, get financials back out of the system, don't actually have access to your backend data sources, whether that be X3, whether that be some of the other electronic data sources. And that's for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's because of user license cost, right? Other times is, you don't necessarily want non-accountants in your accounting system, right? Because you have to start explaining things like debits and credits to non-accountants, and all that kind of stuff, right? So there's a lot of reasons. So what do? Well, they tend to email or call up somebody in accounting and finance who has to stop what they're doing, go into X3, find a kind of viewer report, export that data out. Maybe they need to do some massaging of that data, copy and paste it into another Excel workbook, massage it or whatever, and send it back. And there's two problems with that. One, there's the timeline, right? I'm working on my budget, right? People are working on the budget. The world doesn't stop because it's budget season, right? I've still got to get all of my normal day-to-day stuff done. So maybe I've got this window of opportunity that's a couple hours, this afternoon, and now I'm waiting on this information I need to finish my budget. So that's going to mess up my scheduling. But also it's adding to the workload of the accounting and finance group. But what we think is a better route is to let the people come up here and do their own self-service. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to do a drill down that's going to take me back to show me transaction detail coming out of the back-end system. So as an example, X3. Now you're going to control a lot about this, right? So what are these views that you can go back into? Where can you drill back into X3? What columns are you going to show your people? Again, if you're showing revenue, maybe it's sales stuff. If it's expenses, maybe it's AR and AP, like what I've shown here. What are the columns? And again, there's a lot of different ways that you can configure this, right? But what did I pull up here? So I went back, and this is pulling back all the AP and purchase orders that we have coming out of X3. Now, it's not everything, right? We've got logic here. So I'm not pulling back every GL account. I'm only pulling back the natural accounts that pertain to me for my department, my location. I'm not pulling back 10 years of data. In this example, I'm pulling back a whole year because they want to be able to do some deeper dive analysis on it. And we've also got security. So they're not getting into C accounts. They shouldn't be able to get into C, like compensation accounts as an example. But now when I have this data up on screen, what can I do with it? Well, maybe I'm going to start sorting it by total amount of the invoice or the purchase order or the AP voucher. And I'm going to sort it from lowest to highest, or maybe I want to sort it to highest to lowest. Well, okay, I've still got a whole lot of stuff here, too much to get my head around. So now maybe I wanted to see, okay, what were my top 10? Let me just see what my big spend ticket items were. And what did my top 10 items come to? Well, my top 10 items came to 25 grand, more or less. Okay, so that's one good view that I've got here, right? That I can start doing my analysis on and think about here. And I'm going to clear that out. Maybe I just want to see what are the kind of things that I buy in a January. And now it's going to limit the list to January. Or maybe what do I get in April? Well, I don't buy a whole lot in April, right? So I can use that for my planning as I'm doing it. But again, maybe it's too much for me to get my head around. So I'm going to group it by the account name. And now I see I'm spending money on company cars, company meetings. So I'm going to throw the vendor name in there as well. Now I can come down here. Okay, my supplies software account. Well, I spent money with Adobe, Campsoft. Okay, mobile warehouse. What did I get from mobile warehouse? Well, that's a tablet purchase that got booked to the wrong GL account. Or maybe, you know what? That wasn't my department. I didn't get a new tablet. That's somebody else's department. And now once I have this data up on screen here, if I want, I can export it out to Excel. It'll go out as its, an old static Excel worksheet here, disconnects it from TrueSky, but now I can keep doing whatever other kind of analysis I want to do. So we're giving your people their ability to do their own self-service analytics, right? So if I want to do my analysis at 3 a.m. on a Sunday, I've got all the tools I need at my fingertips. But more importantly, it's also offloading a lot of the workload that falls onto the shoulders of accounting and finance, so they can focus on the more higher value stuff that they need to do. So at TrueSky, again, you get that capability to do budgeting and forecasting of any budget process that you think about, and that kind of deep dive analytics. And it doesn't just have to be going into X3. This could be drilling back into other electronic data sources that you want to let us have access to, okay? Now, that's the capture. Now, any data that we have in TrueSky, we can do presentation quality financials on, okay? Here's an example of an income statement. It's fairly basic, but it gives you some idea. And again, yours get configured to what you want to do, but these are presentation quality. Here you can see I am showing a projection for the year, my budget, my variance, and an actual for another year. But you could have multiple prior years of actual, multiple prior years of calculations. I'm doing some calculations at the bottom, but this could be, percentages as you go in columns. But these are exactly how you want them to look. All right. But here's other things that we do. If I expand out my projection here, you'll see that I'm bringing in 4 months of actual and combining with 8 months of budgeting my projection. I run this next month and it's going to show me 5 months of actual and 7 months of budget. So because we have what we call time intelligence, you have this capability of doing things like reporting like trailing 12, trailing 16, or a future 6 and a prior 6, depending on your situation. And you've got all the different kind of groupings that you can have right here, okay? Now, when you have these reports up here, at any point in time, I can come up here and do a file print and print it to actual paper, obviously. I can do a save as and save it as a PDF, or I can save it as a Excel document. And what it will do is it will disconnect it from TrueSky and save it as a static Excel document. But what it will do is it will keep the formulas in place. So one of the things that we've seen as a trend that's come a lot lately to a lot of our clients is that when they have to send financials on a monthly basis to their bank or their financial institution to keep things like lines of credit open, the bankers don't want, when you see something like product revenue here or gross sales, they don't want to see the whole, just the number. They want to see the formula and what you're adding up, because it's how they verify that your reports are actually including everything that they should be in these numbers, that all these numbers tie out. So you have that complete capability with TrueSky to send it out. And again, income statement, balance sheet, cash flow. Now, a lot of you on this call, you're probably using something like either the Sage Analytics, it's the new one that used to be Zap, I always get the name wrong, or SCI. This is one of the areas where, you know, there's some overlap between TrueSky and some of the other X3 products out there. Financial statement is one of the areas where I think we are far stronger than those other solutions, especially when it comes to presentation quality. Now, one of the other things that we can do with TrueSky is dashboarding. So this is where you have that, again, that overlap with SCI and the Sage Data Analytics tool, right? This is where those tools, being really geared towards doing dashboarding, probably have a little bit more robustness than what we do. But with TrueSky, if you haven't gone down that route and you just want one tool, we can do true dashboarding with TrueSky as well. We also do things when we're rolling these out like what if analysis. So as opposed to just being pretty pictures of the past, I can come up here and I can say, you know what, I also want to see my what if analysis going on here. And now I get enough term numbers and I can say, okay, what if we could increase revenue by 500%, but we can't do it until August? What happens to all of our numbers? So I'm getting that. And we need to increase compensation by 25% starting in April or in May, but we can cut expenses by 50% starting in February, right? So we give you the ability to do dashboarding, but it's also a tool that you can do that what if analysis for future planning. So with TrueSky, you get budgeting, forecasting, and reporting of any business process that you can think about, okay? SG&A, it could be something like sales forecasting, right? Showing you an example here. Again, we don't have time to go into all of this. It could be something like compensation planning, where you're putting in wages and hours and you want to get calculations for taxes and so forth. CapEx projects. So you get budgeting and forecasting of all those different business processes. You get that deep dive analytics, you get the reporting, you get the dashboarding. Along with that, you get direct tie-in to your backend data sources that can be more than just X3. You get a security layer, you get a workflow approval layer that goes on top of that. You get that direct integration. You get the ability to rapidly roll out budget cycles if you need to do things like quarterly reforecast without killing yourselves and taking weeks and weeks to do a budget cycle. And there's a whole lot of other tools that I haven't showed you, but that kind of gives you a general overview of it, right? I know Stephanie's going to come on with a couple of wrap-up slides, but I will stay on the call, and you'll be able to put some questions in if you have them into the question section of the GoTo webinar, and then I'll answer those questions. So with that, I'll bring Stephanie back on, and she can answer any questions, or she can do her wrap-up, and then we'll be here for questions.
Thank you, Alan. All right, like Alan said, just a couple quick wrap-up slides, and then we can open up to questions. There are a few, Alan, that I'll open up for you. There we go. All right, so in summary, what we give you with TrueSky is the ability to continue using Excel Excel, but take to the next level. Again, give you that real enterprise capability that you need. We let you do the budgeting, planning, forecasting for really any business process. Again, Alan showed an overview based on kind of a financial budget and some financial reports, but anything that you need, we can do. Compensation planning, sales forecasting, a whole bunch of other things. We let you involve more people. Get the people who actually know and understand the budget involved without increasing the administrative work. We take care of all of the administrative stuff so that you can focus on really using the budget to drive your business forward. We also integrate seamlessly with X3, of course, certified for that, and other solutions for both budgets and reports. And everything we do is configured for you, for your requirements, so you don't have to change the way you work for our tool. We tailor the implementation and the ongoing support to really become an extension of your team. Now, typical next steps is we'd start with a discussion, answer any high-level questions that you have and get to know your business a little bit better. Then we can proceed to another demo. It can be similar to this or a little bit more tailored for your business. Once you're comfortable with that, we do what's called a scope review. That's where we'll ask to see what you're doing today, and we'll really talk through what it is we need to configure. That information will give us enough to provide you with a proposal. I said it earlier, but everything that we will do is fixed fee. So we'll tell you an exact dollar amount to install, implement, and support TruSky. So thank you so much for attending our session this afternoon. I really hope you found it valuable. We are open to questions. I'll read out a couple that we got. But any others, feel free to use GoToWebinar's question box. Alan, the first, and I know you did show it, but if there's anything more we can kind of discuss, the question was around driver-based planning. If we handle that, they said example by cases, but I was wondering if you're going to show driver-based planning. So maybe you can just talk a little bit about how we do that in case it was missed.
I'll have to talk about it because I don't have a more in-depth setup to show it, but we fully support driver-based budgeting. And again, it can be any drivers that you've got, but the basic concept is you've got quantities times rates that somehow drive to $1, okay? It can be a simple one quantity times a rate gives you $1, or multiple different logics for different businesses. So those quantities can be whatever you want them to be. So it could be number of people, it could be head count, it could be number of cases that you're going to deal with, and then you've got the rates and what goes into those rates. It could be one number, it could be multiple numbers that come together that then ultimately drive to that dollar. And we track all of that. So we allow you to input the cases, input the rates or the quantities and the rates. You can control who can edit quantities, you can control who can edit rates. So maybe the rates need to be set up centrally so you're ensuring everybody uses the exact same rates, and then you let your end users edit the quantities, or you can let the end users edit the rates as well, depending on the situation. But ultimately, that's how we do it, and we do that for almost all of our clients. Probably have some form of driver-based budgeting built into one or more of their budgeting processes. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you. And and if you need more clarification, feel free to continue to ask in the thread. The next question I just want to kind of speak to. So the question was asking if we could show how to build input forms and reports. Now, obviously, that's not something we can get to with 5 minutes left in the session, but I did just want to make sure everyone is aware we definitely can train you to build your own input sheets and reports. However, as that part of that support that I mentioned, we do build all the required input sheets and reports that you need. We can train you on how to build your own, we can train you on how to edit them, or we can do it for you throughout the duration of your budget cycle and reporting needs. So definitely something we can do a follow-up session on, but something that we also offer as part of our support program as well. Alrighty. Another question just about deployment. So is TruSky installed on premise? Alan,
Yep. So we have there are you can deploy TrueSky two ways. We support on-premises deployments, and we also offer TrueSky Online. So we have a cloud offering for TrueSky, and we have support of on-premises deployments. More and more people are going with TrueSky Online because, again, it's one less thing that they have to maintain in their organization. But we still also support on-premises deployments. The application is the same, so you're not giving up any functionality. It's really just what your IT philosophy is as far as deploying applications.
Thank you. All right, that's all the questions that we have. I'll stick around for a couple minutes in case there are any others. Otherwise, I sincerely appreciate you attending today's session. I will follow up if you have any other questions and to get your thoughts, but have a great rest of your day. All right, I'll end the session now, but thank you guys for attending and have a great rest of your day.